Next up is the session, Building Generational Wealth, the Borderless and Belong Approach.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to sit and listen to us. I'm joined by two incredible founders, Avion and Joe, and they're going to introduce themselves. And then we're going to riff a little bit about generational wealth and what that is. So I will hand the mic to Avion first.
Hi, everybody. I'm Avion Gray. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Belong. Belong is a wealth building app. And our mission is to get more people out of saving in cash, moving into investing in the stock market, not necessarily picking stocks, but in the broad stock market, and to starting their journey towards building generational wealth.
Hi everyone, my name is Joe Kinvi, Togolese, Irish, now lives in London. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Borderless, and at Borderless we're making it easy for all of you here to co-invest together, either in Africa or the diaspora.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm Keji. I'm the CMO at a fund called Partech, and we invest from seed to growth, headquartered in Europe. So what we will say is take nothing that we say as financial advice, okay? So we're going to say a lot of things so that you can go away feeling inspired, but we are not telling you to do these things holding ourselves out to be financial specialists. But you mentioned generational wealth, so let's jump right in. And I'd love to ask both of you, what is your definition of generational wealth?
I think generational wealth is money that oftentimes your parents, grandparents have left for you, except for the majority of people I know, black people, we don't come from money and we don't have generational wealth, meaning that now we have to build it. What that means is we have 25 years or a generation to do that. However, sadly, 44% of black people in the UK have net debt, meaning that we're actually in minus. So many of us have to get to zero before we can start building. The good news is we have 25 years to get started, so this is year one.
I love that. And yourself?
Yeah, exactly what Joe said. I think, like most things in life, there is a sort of a tangible part and an intangible part. So something you can touch, the hard, cold money that is handed down from one generation to the next, the assets, the home, the money in the bank, the insurance policy, and then there's the intangible, and I think it's a mindset as well. So it's a mindset that you can embed in your children, in the younger people in your family from a young age. Right? How to resist the urge for instant gratification. We've all heard of the marshmallow test, right? And how to budget. So it's really a mindset around long-term thinking and also around just financial literacy and also financial enlightenment. So it's the hard, cold cash and the assets, and then also the intangible, which is that mindset.
We're going to come to mindset later and talking about the hard, cold cash. Do you think this definition of generational wealth changes whether you're in the diaspora or if you're nomadic or if you're moving around or does it change? Because when you say hard cash and when people leave homes and things like that, we're now in a way of society where people are living everywhere, moving everywhere. Like, does that definition change when you think of it in that sense?
Before I answer the question, can I get a show of hand of people who every now and again or every month send money home? Okay, the number is actually smaller than I thought. And I think we have to flip things around. When you're sending money home, what that means is you're actually not saving enough. And so it means that you're taking care of some people that, things didn't work out the way they wanted to. And you have to now, make enough money, save it, and build it for your kids. Automatically, you are sadly falling behind because the majority of the world is not doing that. They're not sending money home. And we have to flip things. Now, I'm not telling you not to send money to your parents or whatever the case is, but what I'm saying is we have to figure out a different way to not be in the same situation receiving money from our kids. And that requires a different way of thinking.
Yeah, I'd also say, I think, not so much the diaspora, but I think on a generational basis, it has changed. So our parents, who were boomers, a lot of us, our parents were baby boomers, where a lot of us here are millennials or Gen Z, our parents built wealth differently. So that generation built wealth largely through property. through investing in a home, buying a home, and building wealth through your mortgage. When I was a child, I grew up in Trinidad. What my dad told me was buy a house, live in that one, buy a second house, rent that one out, and you're made. Right? But that is not as accessible to us anymore. The way that we're going to build wealth is different to how our parents did, and we need to wake up to that. I'll give you a quick stat. So, baby boomers, our parents, that generation, when they were 30 years old, 54% of them owned their own home at age 30. For millennials, it's 28% of millennials in the UK own their own home at age 30. What are we doing to bridge that gap, right? With building wealth through home ownership, through property investing. Now, the stock market, what if I told you this? In the last 10 years, the broad stock market, the S&P 500, has outperformed property values in the UK by 10x. 10x better performance, sort of returns in the stock market. I'm not saying don't buy a home, but as a wealth building tool, the home for us is going to be a consumable. It's a roof over our head. It's a place to live. It's not the way that we are going to build wealth.
And I mean, also, if you think about it, the cost to start playing around in the stock market versus the cost of buying a house is, well, astronomical. And I'm glad you were saying that people shouldn't stop sending money home, because I think my dad would come find you and be like, what are you saying right now? Thank you for that stat, but when we were doing our prep call, you also mentioned a staggering stat. 276 million or so? Billion.
Billion.
Can you unpack that? Because that literally left me like, wait, what? Can you share that with the audience?
So the Bank of England came out earlier this year, on Valentine's Day actually, February 14th of this year, with a statistic. And they said that there's 276 billion pounds in the UK system sitting in cash. So sitting in current accounts, savings accounts at banks, earning no interest, 0% interest. So what that means is that 276 billion, the people who are sitting on that cash, you guys know what inflation means? Yeah? Show of head, nod. Inflation is the rate at which prices are going up, prices of goods and services. So in the grocery store, services that you buy. If your cash isn't growing at or faster than the rate of inflation, you're actually getting poorer, right? It's losing value. You are getting poorer with cash sitting in the bank, 276 billion. And what we believe at Belong, our own sort of statistics, is that the millennials and Gen Zs are holding at least half of that cash.
Anything you wanted to add? Were you as surprised as I was, or you knew that already probably? I did not know.
Yeah, no, I think like we should not keep cash. It just does not make sense, because if you really understand money is actually, the government is printing a lot of money, meaning that your hard dollars or pounds, is losing value nearly every year. So like you have to be making more than at least inflation. And there's so many options, and that's why I'm a big fan of Belong, because like it really helps you get started, and you can learn very quickly and get started very quickly, and then ramp up from there.
We're gonna get into tactics shortly, but you mentioned earlier in your intro, Avion, about financial enlightenment and this mindset. Can you explain a little bit to the audience like what you mean by financial enlightenment? And then I'd love you both to share what your financial enlightenment moment was.
Yeah, definitely. So the way I know a lot of you have probably heard about financial literacy, right? It gets thrown around a lot.
Wait, let's just show of hands. How many people have heard of the concept of financial enlightenment? Hands up. Okay. Well, and how many people have heard of financial literacy? All right. Well, you're about to get a masterclass in financial enlightenment. Let's go. Tell us all.
Yeah, and it's a key insight that we've learned with building Belong is that it goes a bit further than literacy. So I look at it as a layer cake, is how I describe it. At the foundational layer of the cake is what I call numeracy. So that's what we learned in school as children. We learned about numbers, we learned maths, we learned how to multiply, divide, all of that, right? How do numbers work? The next layer up is literacy. So that's what we hear thrown around a lot. And most of us sitting here, if not all, I would consider financially literate. And that means you understand how interest rates work, you understand how a mortgage works, you understand things like that, financial concepts. That's not enough. There's another layer that I add on top of that, and that's called financial enlightenment. And literacy could create intention to do something, to act. You have the intention. I speak to a lot of people here today who said to me, I'm researching ETFs. I'm looking into it. It creates the intention because you know about it. Enlightenment is action. So when you become financially enlightened, you understand that if you are still saving in cash, you have a problem. And every day that goes by that you are on the sideline, and the stock market, the broad stock market is the trajectory is upward, and you're on the sideline, you have a problem. Number one. The other part of enlightenment is that you feel empowered to act. If you have an app, you have a smartphone, you can download an app, the technology is there, platforms like Belong are there, you can act. It is for you. It is not for the wealthy guy, it's for you. You can do it. Nothing's stopping you but starting. And the third part of enlightenment, I think, is just understanding the biases that stop us from investing, right? And being aware of them, and when they show up, you say, aha, there you are, trying to sabotage me. I'm not gonna fall for it, right? So it's things like present bias. We favor our current self so much more than we favor our future self, for whom we should be investing for. That future self feels like a stranger. We wanna satisfy, gratify ourselves sitting here today. We wanna spend that money, buy that bag, go on that holiday, and you've got to connect to your future self. You've got to love your future self. You've got to want that financial stability for your future self. And that future self needs to stop feeling like a stranger. That's one bias. The second bias is illusion of control. I speak to a lot of people, and what they say to me is, I'm gonna have a windfall. I'm gonna win the lotto. My business is gonna be so successful. I'm gonna exit for $1 billion. I'm gonna start a unicorn. I'm gonna have a windfall. You have this illusion that you can control that, right? And that actually is magical thinking, right? What you can control is starting today, start small, and start investing.
Can I just add to that? I was able to start my company 2.5 years ago because I spent nearly 10 years saving and investing. And when the time was right, I was able to invest my own money to build a company to where I think it could go to before I went out to investors to raise money. So I was thinking about starting a company when I was 25. I'm 36 now, and if I didn't start saving then, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, yapping away. So, and everything I do now, I'm actually thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And yeah, working on a startup, you don't have a lot of money, but I needed all that money to get to where I am today. And everything I'm doing now is actually getting me ready for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
And can I just add one more thing? Another insight that we had with Belong is that, I believe fundamentally that for people to start acting on investing, you need to have a moment of truth, right? A real moment of truth with it, where you become financially enlightened. You move from being literate to being enlightened, right? And that enlightenment doesn't come from seeing an ad on the tube at Bond Street Station that said, get your first stock free if you download the app, right? That doesn't change your behavior. That doesn't get you investing on the spot. What does is a moment of truth, a moment of enlightenment. And that's what our mission is at Belong. Some people have that as children. They grow up with it. Their parents instilled it in them, right? When I had my moment of truth, the person that I was speaking to, he looked at me. When he realized I wasn't investing, he looked at me like I was green with purple spots on my face. Couldn't believe, in his world, he could not believe there were people who did not invest because he grew up with it. And so that moment of truth is what we set out our mission is to create for people. And I hope, my biggest hope for today is that you hear my voice and you have that moment of truth today.
Thank you so much for that. And actually, Joe, when we were chatting, you had a moment of truth, which led to you starting with a syndicate. Do you want to share a little bit, tell the crew about that?
Yeah, mine is, growing up, Africa has always been portrayed as this poor place, that needs help, that needs aid. And when we pulled together 17,000 euro or $20,000, it sounds like, well, in the startup world, it's very little money. But when we invested that money in 2 companies in Africa, we started seeing how much little money can catalyze great people who are doing great things, who are creating jobs. And we're like, oh, okay, we can do this. Then we did it again, and we did it again. And quickly realized that actually, nobody's building for this space, and that's where Borderless came from. Today, one of the syndicates that we started 5 years ago has invested in, I think, just over 100 companies, and we decided to see how we can empower more people to start a syndicate and invest in Africa. Now, many of us are sending money home. Like, the number last year was 100 billion. 100 billion, but that capital is not productive. And for people who, any Nigerians in the room? Wow. So I'm going to Lagos next week, and I'm so excited. Reason being is the amount of capital that's going to a place like Nigeria is amazing. And importantly, it's mostly Nigerians investing in Nigeria. The case of Dangote, who put in 20 billion, built a refinery. I feel like the world is not paying attention to what's happening in Africa. And it's coming to that stage where we need to go beyond aid. Like, aid has been going on for many years, like back in the 60s. Somehow, it hasn't been productive. Can we find another way? And my suggestion is investment. And you need to pay attention to what's happening. When you go to Nairobi, there's so much happening. You go to South Africa, there's a lot happening. And the only people that are actually not investing in Africa is Africans. It's like, if you go to the coast of, if you go to Zanzibar, Zanzibar has, I think, like 800 hotels. More than 90% of them are owned by foreigners. And you don't want a case where you go back to Africa one day and you don't even recognize the place. So that's why we started this journey, and I did it on the side for a bit and then moved at it full time about 2.5 years ago. And I think I'm going to be doing it for at least 25 years, which is a generation.
I was going to say, well, that was a nice little segue. We should hope you're doing it for 25 years so you can build a generational wealth. We've got 5 minutes left, which leaves enough time for a couple of questions, final questions. So one being, let's get really practical. Let's say someone has £500, £1,000, £1,500. Again, this is not financial advice, but more like, let's give inspiration. Where would they start? Like something concrete, like put yourself in their shoes. What would you do first, both of you?
£500 of cash to put to work.
Yeah. So we said start now, right?
Yeah, start now.
Start
now. And I know that it could be intimidating, right? I know that some of you are sitting there thinking, gosh, where do I start? This is not for me. I don't know. I'm like a bit intimidated. You don't have to pick stocks to invest. A lot of people confuse that. You don't have to know which individual stocks to pick. On Belong, you can invest in the broad stock market. So buy the US market, the S&P 500, buy the world market. So you're getting a bit of all these little companies, right, in an index. And you can start today. So Belong, our minimum investment is usually £500 to start. For BTF, for the next 3 days up until midnight on Sunday, we've dropped that to £25 to start investing on Belong. £25. If you have £25,
I think that deserves a clap. Come on.
If you have £25
can I do
of cash, yes, £25 of cash, get started. Put the £25 in, right? Watch it for a month. Watch it for 6 weeks. See what it does. And I promise you, that first time you see it go down a bit and then go up a bit and go higher, then go down a little bit, blip and go higher, and it does that like about 2 or 3 times, you'll be hooked, right? So that's how you start. Start small. It doesn't have to be big. Start small and then keep adding, watch it, keep adding, right? So you have your £500, get it into the market. I know a lot of people feel the pressure to pay down debt, student debt. A lot of us have loans and all of that. Your loans are at an interest rate that is lower than the market growth that you can get, right? So put a little bit in. Pay your loans, but put a little bit into the market and get started. The only thing stopping you is starting. Remember that.
Now, after you've invested on Belong, and you know a little bit about investing, and you want to try other things like other asset classes, you want to learn more about Africa, who's building what, who's building the next big thing, you come to Borderless, and on Borderless we have syndicates that you can join. Now, there's a lot of courses out there that you'd pay $500 or $1,000 for. What I should recommend to people is use that money to invest. The best way to learn is by doing. Courses, you will learn, but you will not get that practical, like tangible result that you want. And if you do it once or twice and you hate it, then at least you know. But you will not invest in anything unless you will not put the money, like unless you've done your work, you've done your homework, you've done the research. And just that's how you learn. I'm not saying that you should not take any angel investment course, but like I think when you find the right syndicate after you have built a bit of knowledge, Borderless is your next stage. And for Africans in the room, if you want to invest in Africa, come and talk to me. We have opportunities across startups, real estate, SMEs, and not just in Nigeria, by the way, across the continent. So again, no financial advice, right? Yeah.
And one more quick thing. So at our table, where near the entrance, you'll see the big belong. We have a big sign that says "Save in cash, cash won't save you." We have little cards with a QR code. You scan that, you put in your email, you download the app, you get a £25 offer. So come to the table and get a card after this. My co-founder and one of our team, she's going to rush back.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up? I mean, thank you both for your examples and thank you for the resources you shared. Is there anything else that you think people should know? Otherwise, our lovely friend is giving me the cut sign, so no other words.
The only thing stopping you is starting.
I love that, and I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you learned something, and thank you.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
I'm actually on TikTok.
Oh.
It's very scary, but I am creating content on TikTok. You can follow me if you want, but like if you want to learn about what I do, just, it's my name, jokingly.
Joe Kinvi on TikTok. Maybe he'll do a dance or something. Thank
No,
you
I will not be
so
doing a
much.
dance. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.